The Grand Concord of civilized species had a simple rule for membership: no warships. After the Fourth Galactic War, every new species seeking entry into the galactic community was forbidden from maintaining armed fleets. It was a law written in fire, a lesson paid for with the lives of 1 trillion beings. Peace, they said, must be enforced through restraint. When humanity was finally invited to the Concord after decades of observation, the message was clear. You may join us, Terrans, but you will dismantle your fleets. No dreadnoughts. No carriers. No armed cruisers. No war. For most, it was an acceptable price for interstellar trade, technology exchange, and peace among thousands of worlds. But for Admiral Elias Caine of the Terran Defense Command, it was a betrayal. Humanity had learned long ago that peace without power was a lie waiting to be shattered. Still, Earth complied. The Terran fleets were decommissioned. Massive orbital yards fell silent. Shipyards on Mars were repurposed for civilian transport and mining vessels. The proud banners of the Terran Navy were folded, archived, and locked away beneath glass. But not everyone believed in peace through disarmament. Beneath the surface of Titan, in a classified hangar hollowed out of ice and alloy, an unauthorized project began. They called it Project Nightforge. Its goal: to preserve human sovereignty in a galaxy that distrusted them. Engineers, scientists, and soldiers worked in secret under the guise of asteroid mining operations. They scavenged decommissioned ship components, repurposed outdated orbital forges, and built in silence. The first ship, TDS Resolute, took shape over 15 years. She wasn't a dreadnought, not by Concord standards, but she carried weapons the galaxy hadn't seen since the Great War. Railguns capable of punching through hull plating kilometers thick. Drone swarms linked by quantum entanglement. Shield harmonics that adapted mid-battle. And deep within her core, a human invention no alien dared to replicate, an artificial tactical intelligence named Erebus. Erebus status report, Admiral Caine said as he floated through the half-lit command deck. All systems nominal, the AI replied, its voice calm, genderless, yet eerily human. Prototype reactors stable. Weapons calibration complete. I am ready, Admiral. Caine looked out through the armored viewport. Beyond the frozen haze of Titan's atmosphere, Saturn's rings shimmered like a crown. Then we begin trials tomorrow. Not a word of this leaves the system. But secrets don't stay buried long in the galaxy. When the Concord's Oversight Council learned that Earth's shipyards were still consuming high-grade tritanium and antimatter, a delegation was dispatched immediately. At their head was Counselor Vartok of the Keltheri Dominion, a towering avian species with glassy feathers and eyes like molten gold. You were given clear terms, Admiral, Vartok hissed when Caine met him on Earth's orbital platform. No warships. The Concord has been generous, but we will not tolerate deceit. Caine smiled thinly. We're building mining vessels. Titans rich in helium-3, Counselor. Vartok's gaze sharpened. Mining vessels don't require classified communication encryptions or quantum reactors. The room grew tense. Caine's expression didn't change. Perhaps your sensors misinterpreted the data. Vartok leaned forward, feathers bristling. I warn you, human. If you build weapons again, the Concord will act. We will destroy them before your kind spreads its madness again. That night, Caine stood in silence inside the control chamber of Resolute. The AI flickered into existence beside him, a shifting silhouette of light. They will not allow us to defend ourselves, Caine said quietly. They want humanity kneeling. Erebus's tone was analytical. Then they underestimate you, Admiral. Maybe, he said. But they're right to fear us. History shows that peace doesn't last without deterrence. Over the next decade, Project Nightforge expanded. Hidden outposts in the Kuiper Belt and the Oort Cloud built more ships. 3, then 5, then 12. The fleet was small compared to the Concord's armadas, but each vessel was a masterpiece of human innovation and defiance. While the politicians on Earth preached peace, Caine's shadow fleet prepared for the inevitable day when words would fail. That day came sooner than anyone expected. From beyond the galactic rim came the Dravani Swarm, an extragalactic species of biomechanical predators that consumed everything in their path. Worlds fell within weeks. Concord fleets, vast, proud, and untested in centuries, were annihilated. The Dravani didn't negotiate, didn't communicate. They devoured. By the time the Concord sent a desperate plea for aid to every member species, the swarm had already reached the border worlds. On Earth, the message arrived at midnight. The president of the Terran Assembly gathered the remaining admirals in the Situation Room. The Concord's transmission played in grim silence. Cities burning, planets cracking under bombardment, fleets disintegrating into fire. "Humanity must assist," the president said. "We are members of the Concord. We can't refuse." Caine, older now, gray at the temples, looked up from the table. "With what fleet?" "The Concord will provide ships. The same ships that are losing a war they started." He leaned forward. "Permission to deploy Resolute and her sister vessels." The room fell silent. The other admirals shifted uneasily. "Admiral, those ships don't officially exist," one murmured. "If we use them, we violate every treaty." Caine cut him off. "If we don't, humanity dies next. The Dravani won't stop at alien borders." The president stared at him for a long time, weighing the impossible. Then she nodded slowly. "Do it. But if this fails, you take the blame." Caine smiled for the first time in years. "I always intended to." 3 days later, the Resolute left Titan's shadow. She rose from the methane clouds like a ghost, followed by 11 more ships, sleek, dark, angular vessels of Terran design. Their hulls reflected no light. Their engines whispered through the void. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, their destination, the shattered remains of the Concord's 3rd Expeditionary Force, cornered near the planet Virulon. When they arrived, the battle was already lost. Swarms of Dravani tore through the last Concord cruisers. The massive alien constructs glowed like living nightmares, their tendrils tearing through shields and hulls with ease. Caine stood on the bridge, calm amidst chaos. "Erebus, engage combat protocol." "Confirmed," said the AI. "Targeting priority. Dravani command nodes." The fleet's railguns ignited. Slugs the size of buildings crossed the void faster than thought, slamming into the swarm's living ships. The first Dravani dreadform exploded into molten fragments. The shockwave tore through the enemy formation. Concord commanders, retreating moments before, halted in stunned disbelief. Human ships, black, unknown, unregistered, had just destroyed what their fleets could not. Caine's voice echoed over the encrypted band. "This is Admiral Caine of the Terran Defense Command. Withdraw and regroup. We'll handle the rest." Vartok himself appeared on a damaged Concord cruiser's bridge feed. "You disobeyed the Concord, human," he shrieked. "You brought warships." Caine cut the channel. "And now we're using them to save you." For the next 7 hours, the Terran fleet fought without pause. Every railgun strike, every drone swarm, every missile barrage was a symphony of calculated violence. Erebus coordinated maneuvers faster than any organic mind could follow. When the last Dravani vessel fell silent, Virilon's skies burned red with debris. The Concord fleets floated in stunned silence. Humanity had broken their most sacred law, and saved them all. As the fires died, Vartok's transmission came through again. His tone subdued. "Admiral Caine, the Council will demand an explanation." Caine looked out at the wreckage, his voice cold. "Tell them this, we warned you. You forbade us from defending ourselves. You made us weak. Humanity will never bow again." Channel cut. Resolute turned toward the next sector, where the swarm still spread unchecked. Caine knew this was only the beginning. The stars around Virilon were still burning when Admiral Elias Caine gave the order to jump. The Terran fleet, 12 ships built in secret, ghosts forged in Defiance, moved deeper into Dravani-held space. Each vessel carried the weight of humanity's rebellion, and the knowledge that the Concord would never forgive them. "Course locked," reported Commander Hayes, Resolute's executive officer. "Next target, the Dravani Hive Nexus, grid coordinates 14-77-9. Estimated swarm strength, massive." Caine stood before the tactical display, his hands clasped behind his back. "They'll expect resistance. They won't expect humans." Erebus, the ship's AI, flickered into view beside him. Enemy network analysis complete. The Hive Nexus operates on a shared psionic frequency. If we disrupt that, the swarm loses cohesion. "Meaning they tear each other apart," Hayes said grimly. Caine nodded. "Exactly. Prepare the resonance torpedo." The weapon had been theoretical until Resolute's engineers brought it to life. A device designed to disrupt telepathic networks using quantum harmonics. No alien species dared to use such technology. It was considered a war crime under Concord law. Humanity had no such luxury now. The fleet emerged near the Hive Nexus, a dark, pulsating world orbiting a dead star. Massive Dravani bioships swarmed like hornets around their queen. The planet itself seemed alive, breathing, its crust splitting to reveal glowing fissures of organic matter. The first wave of Dravani came fast. "Shields up," Hayes barked. The Resolute shuddered as energy beams lashed against its hull. Plasma bursts ignited across the formation. Human railguns thundered in reply, shredding the swarm's living armor. Hundreds of smaller alien craft disintegrated, their organic shells vaporizing into glowing dust. "Launch drones," Caine ordered. Thousands of tiny metallic spheres erupted from the Terran ships. They weaved through the chaos, each carrying a sliver of Erebus's intelligence. The swarm faltered as its own attacks turned chaotic. Dravani ships began colliding, misfiring, losing coordination. "Admiral," Erebus said calmly, "the resonance torpedo is armed. Firing solution acquired." "Fire!" The torpedo streaked through the void, trailing a halo of quantum light. When it struck the Hive Nexus, the effect was instantaneous. A soundless wave rippled across space, visible only as distortion. The Dravani screamed, not in words but in psychic agony. Their formation shattered. Massive dreadforms turned on one another, tearing themselves apart. The Hive's planet cracked open, bleeding fire into the void. "Impact confirmed," Hayes whispered. The swarms collapsing. The bridge was silent except for the hum of systems. Outside, alien monstrosities devoured their own kind. The sky was filled with destruction and victory. Then Erebus spoke again, softer now. "Admiral, I'm detecting movement in the Hive core. Something is waking." Before Caine could respond, the view screen flared white. From the fissured surface of the Hive world rose a shape larger than any ship humanity had ever seen, a Dravani Titan, kilometers long, alive with pulsing light. It spread wings of living plasma and screamed across the void. Hayes swore under his breath. That thing's bigger than a moon. Caine's jaw tightened. All ships, focus fire. Railguns, missiles, and lasers rained upon the Titan, but it barely slowed. Energy washed over it like water. The creature unleashed a blast of psionic force that shattered 2 Terran cruisers instantly. Their hulls imploded, leaving only silence and drifting debris. "Admiral," Erebus said, "our weapons are ineffective. The Titan is absorbing energy directly from the dead star's core." Caine's mind raced. "Then we'll take away its source. Prepare the Nova Drive." The Nova Drive was Resolute's last resort, a prototype weapon that collapsed its own reactor into a controlled singularity. It was never meant to be used. Hayes turned horrified. "Sir, that'll kill us all." Caine met his gaze. "If that thing reaches the Concord core worlds, it'll kill everyone anyway. Humanity built these ships to protect, not to hide. This is what they're for." Erebus's holographic form flickered, studying him. "If we trigger the Nova Drive, I will not survive either." Caine smiled faintly. "No one really does, Erebus. But you'll be remembered." The ship lurched as another blast struck the hull. Fires erupted along the deck. Warning sirens screamed. Still Caine stood tall. "Transfer all fleet data to Erebus," he ordered. "Transmit everything, designs, logs, battle tactics, to the other ships. Humanity's legacy can't die here." Erebus hesitated. "Data transfer complete. Are you certain, Admiral?" "Do it." The AI's voice softened. "Goodbye, Admiral." The Resolute turned toward the Titan, engines blazing at maximum thrust. The surviving Terran ships fell back, their commanders saluting in silence. On the bridge, Caine watched the monster loom larger in the viewport, its glowing tendrils reaching out like a god's wrath. He whispered to himself, "They warned us not to build warships. Maybe they were right. But without them, there'd be no one left to fight." "Nova Drive online," Erebus said. "Engage." The stars vanished. For a single blinding instant, light consumed the system. The Hive world imploded. The Titan screamed as the singularity tore through its body, collapsing its energy into nothingness. When the light faded, there was only silence. No Hive. No Titan. No Resolute. Across the sector, human ships watched the explosion ripple through the void, erasing the swarm completely. Erebus's transmitted data reached every vessel, ensuring humanity's knowledge, and its Defiance, would live on. When the surviving fleet returned to Concord space weeks later, they were met not with celebration but fear. Concord fleets surrounded them, weapons armed. The Council demanded answers. Counselor Vartok appeared on the central transmission once more. His voice trembled. "You defied every law. You unleashed forbidden weapons. You saved us all." Commander Hayes, now commanding the Vigilant, stared coldly at the screen. "We did what we had to do. Humanity won't apologize for surviving." Vartok's feathers rippled. "The Council will debate your future. Perhaps humanity deserves a seat beyond mere membership." Hayes didn't respond. Instead, he looked out toward the stars where Resolute had vanished. "We don't need permission to exist," he said quietly. "We just need to remember why we fought." Years later, children on countless worlds would learn of the Battle of Virilon and the fall of the Hive. The story spoke of a human admiral who broke the laws of peace to save a galaxy that had denied him the right to fight. The Concord eventually lifted the ban on defensive fleets, but only after they rebuilt their worlds with Terran help. The Resolute became legend, her name whispered with awe and fear alike. Deep in the archives of Titan, a message was discovered in the encrypted memory core of the Vigilant. It was the last transmission Erebus had sent before the Nova Drive detonated. Admiral Caine to all future commanders, never forget, peace is not the absence of weapons. It is the will to use them only when there is no other choice. Build your ships, guard your people. The stars will never be kind to the unarmed. And so humanity rebuilt, not as subjects of the Concord but as equals. Their warships sailed openly through the stars, their banners no longer hidden. Every vessel bore the same inscription along its hull, a tribute to the man who defied the galaxy.